Hi, I'm Tom McGrath, and welcome to the Satell Institute's Executive Session podcast. This is the podcast where we talk to CEOs and other business leaders about corporate social responsibility, companies giving back to their communities. Today, we're going to turn our focus to America's biggest city, New York, and specifically to the mighty borough of Queens. We're going to talk about the powerful role that chambers of commerce can play, not only in helping businesses do well, but also in helping them do good. Our guest today is Tom Grech, the CEO and president of the Queens Chamber of Commerce. Tom, welcome. Good to see you.
Tom, thanks so much for having me. I'm really thrilled to be here with you guys today.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to have you. And we were just chatting a little before we started recording here about our paths overlapped a little bit in college, a decade or two or three or however many ago. So it's nice to reconnect with you after a long time.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Totally my pleasure.
And I hope people will just indulge us on all University of Scranton references that we make here.
Absolutely.
So anyway, as I said, I want to talk about doing business in New York as well as about the role that chambers that play. But before we get into the Queens Chamber of Commerce, let's just talk a little bit about you. I mean, I know you've been at the Queens Chamber for about a decade or so, but had a really interesting career before that. So just give us kind of the quick rundown of your business life before that.
Thank you. And again, thanks for letting me be here. As I tell my kids, 19 and 23, as you go through life, it really is the journey, not the destination. And you really never have, some people would call, a bad experience in your work life, because hopefully you learn. For example, I was part of 3 startups. 2 of them failed miserably. And the one I learned the most from was the failed ones. Making some money on a startup is nice, but you learn a lot about yourself, about things in general. When you don't succeed, it's half the battle, right? So I think young people today of any age need to get themselves ready for failure. It's not a bad thing to fail. But so before the chamber, to go back after college, I graduated. I went to Philadelphia. My first job was at R.R. Donnelley, and I was an accounting major. And a life lesson was I went to the Philadelphia Inquirer, saw an ad for customer service rep at R.R. Donnelley, and I get the job, and I'm all excited, and I'm a copy operator. And I'm the first in the family to go to college. And I thought my father would be upset that I got a job as a copy operator. He goes, you know what? Be the best damn copy operator R.R. Donnelley ever had. And don't worry about anything else. And so it was a great life lesson. The very first year I came home to learn about doing my taxes. And I'll never forget my father, who I never saw cry before. I said, Dad, I got to do my taxes. Could you help me with this? And I showed him my documentation, and he got all weepy. He goes, "You made more than me this year," because of overtime and everything else. And I was like, wow, hard work. And so hard work is my life lesson. As I tell my kids today, a lot of people are smarter than me, but nobody that I know outworks me. And you can make up for a lack of knowledge or skill or pedigree by just doing hard work. I think that knowledge, that factor of American life still exists. And so I love working hard and showing people the results.
Love that. That's great. And I love that story about your dad. I'm sure it was a
Yeah.
proud moment for him. Really.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I didn't know what to expect. I'm thinking, was he bummed out? Was he sad? Did I not make enough? I made more than him.
Hey, son, can you give me a loan, right?
So then I moved on with Donnelly. I went back to New York where my roots were. I worked in customer service. I am proud to tell you that of the customer service world, I was the first at R.R. Donnelley to ever go from customer service to sales. And to me, it was a means to the end. Everybody at R.R. Donnelley that was anybody in management started off in sales. So I figured, let me go into sales. I wasn't really a sales guy, but I learned to do well. Rookie of the year, all that good stuff. And I got into management and jumped around a little bit. But I opened up offices in Argentina, Mexico, and Chile, and had a great old time working for a great family-owned and run Fortune 500.
Awesome. That's great. So tell me, when the opportunity came up at the Queens Chamber of Commerce, what was interesting to that about you? I mean, to you about that? What was the appeal?
So I came back after a stint at Sony Corporation, and by the way, I worked at Sony DADC in Pittman, New Jersey, and Terre Haute, Indiana. And the guy that hired me was my classmate from Scranton, John
Ding,
Daly.
first Scranton reference.
There you go, right? John Daly, class of '84, a dear friend then, a dear friend still. He hired me to help run the supply chain and manage stuff. And so, long story short, we did really well, but making CDs and DVDs was going the way of a dodo bird.
Yep.
So I left. I came home to Long Island with my wife and two little kids and invested in a startup called JJT Energy, which did pretty well. And then a fellow named Bob Cattell, who had retired from National Grid, bought the company, put us on steroids. And his first job for me was, you got to join chambers of commerce. And I said to Bob, what's a chamber of commerce? I didn't even know, right? I'm a Fortune 500 guy. So long story short, I joined. It was a lot of fun, and I brought a unique perspective. Again, not the smartest guy in the woodshed, but also I brought in the knowledge of Fortune 500, KPIs, things that others in my space never knew. All good, well-intentioned people. I needed to make it different, and I'll tell you more about when we get to that point about the crazy diversity of Queens and what we've done to help engage ourselves with this crazy, crazy diverse place called Queens County, New York.
Oh, it's amazing. And I think you're right. What you were saying earlier about you sort of, it's all about the journey and you never know where a career is going to take you, but all that experience ends up being useful wherever you land, right? You're
Right.
taking something from all the previous jobs and they make a difference in the one that you're doing right now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, tell us a little bit, give us kind of an overview of the chamber and sort of, the kinds of businesses that are part of the chamber, what your mission is, there.
So I inherited a renowned, well thought of organization founded in 1911. And going through the history books, I can see pictures of 300 guys in tuxedos at the Pierre Hotel networking in smoking jackets and cigars. And that was networking in 1911, 1915. And networking is different now, right? But I stand on the shoulders of those before me, and I mean that very, very seriously. But the people that were there for a while didn't see what was happening in Queens County. And so I can tell you today, and then of the 3,068 counties in America, we're the number one diverse county by far. We've got 190 languages, 300 countries represented here. We're the largest geographic borough or county of New York City. Brooklyn slightly larger. But we've got a lot of good things going on. And so it's all about, I go back to our mantra from our Articles of Incorporation in 1911. We educate, we advocate, and we network. All the things that we did then have changed greatly, but at our core, we educate, we advocate, and we network to help people grow their businesses.
Fantastic. Give us an example or two, if you can think about it, just in terms of diversity of the kind of different companies that you guys are working with.
So we represent today 1,400 members, the most you've ever had, and those 1,400 members represent about 150,000 or so Queens-based employees. So while I count JP Morgan and Wells Fargo and other large organizations as members, I only count, to be authentic and real, I only count those that are based in Queens County. Within that self, there's small mom and pops. The vast majority of our members are little ones, sole single proprietors, a couple people might own a restaurant, to the big boys that are out there, right? And in every way, shape, or form, we serve them all in different ways.
That's really cool. And I would think too, it's a little about what we were talking about in terms of your life journey. I'm betting that those companies, whether they're large or small, when you guys are getting together, there are things that they can learn from each other, right? I mean, just because you're a huge multinational corporation doesn't mean that the mom and pop might not have some kind of lesson for you. I would think.
There's a lot of truth to that. So again, right now, I'm not going to blow a lot of smoke about our county, but allow me a little bit. So of those 3,068 counties, there's about 45 billion with a B of development going on right now in Queens. That's all privately sourced. So two airports. LaGuardia is done. That was $8 billion, almost done. JFK is up and running with about a 20 or $22 billion overhaul, which is going to be gorgeous, right? Be kind of the gateway to America now in its right firm place for global travelers and also domestic ones. We recently won a long fought battle amongst 11 contenders to now win not one, but two mega casino entertainment hotel projects. One is the Hard Rock and the New York Mets on the northern part of the borough. And the other one is Resorts World, owned by Genting out of Malaysia. So together about, I don't know, 14, $15 billion of private investment, tens of thousands of all union jobs, which is great. And then, I always say I always have to be luckier than good. We're pretty good, but the lucky part the timing is unbelievable, right? So those two airports, two casinos, we're building a soccer stadium right across the street from Citi Field. That's the New York City Football Club, known as Etihad Stadium, 10% owned by the dreaded New York Yankees and 10% owned by the UAE. That's going to be open for business sometime in 2027. And we're going to be featuring, I think, 6 to 8 Olympic soccer games in 2028. We just got news last week that Gotham Football Club, the women's version of soccer, is moving from New Jersey, thank heavens, to Queens to play in that stadium. And then we've got things like the USTA, which is they're building an $800 million addition, which is it's not a footnote or an asterisk, but it's like it adds to the mix, right? And so as far as stats go, last year they enjoyed their biggest year ever at the USTA, the US Open. Over the 3 week period of that, they had 1,000,001 visitors. And the revenue that was generated by those 3 weeks is more than both all Yankee and Met home games combined. So
Wow.
the numbers are there, and people that don't know about it are like, are you kidding me? It's real, it's happening. And I fancy ourselves as the new, with all those things happening, the new entertainment and sports mecca of the US because there's so much going on. It's incredible how it just keeps going. And again, people might say those are the big boys, but you know what? The mom and pops are benefiting. We got a local chocolate company here in Forest Hills named Agnier Chocolates into Hudson News. That's in all the airports. They're in Resorts World. We got a small mom and pop cheesesteak company. And by the way, I got time in Philadelphia. This place could wow Pat's and Gino's. It's called Chitty's Cheesesteak. I got them in the City Field. They were so successful. They're now opening up a store in Queens. So those are the stories that I love talking about because you make friends with the big boys and the billionaires, and you force them in a very, very collegial way to look out for the little guys, right? Nobody else is doing that. So I got these little mom and pops in those places, and it's a big part of what we do for the mom and pops.
Yeah, well, Satella Institute is all about taking care of communities, and it's such a good example where like the community of businesses can take care of each other as well. I think it's also interesting, that those of us who are not in New York, when we think about New York and business, the first thing that pops into your head is Wall Street, the financial center of the world, really, or Midtown Manhattan. Lots of big multinational corporations have a presence there. But to your point, there is so much happening in Queens, so much growth, so much that's dynamic and very forward looking. So it's a pretty exciting place to be these days. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was kind of like for a long, long time, we had industry here and commerce and stuff, but like I go back to like the 1800s and even the early part of the 20th century, like Queens was a place that people traveled through, right? It was the bedroom community for the hustle and bustle of Manhattan, but to the east on Long Island, there was ducks, there was vegetables, there was produce, there was oysters that supplied all the restaurants. So it was a place you traveled through from Long Island through Queens to Manhattan and then markets west. Now it's a place people travel to. They get all those things from Long Island, including the workers, come to Queens and to Manhattan, and they're staying and they're growing their businesses. And with all that diversity, that part of being that number one diverse place, they're busy working and living the American dream here, and we want to help that continue.
Fantastic. It's funny that not too many years ago you said to somebody, "What's a chamber of commerce?" Talk a
Right?
little bit about just sort of what is the value of a chamber of commerce that in terms of like making an area more dynamic when it comes to business, helping businesses thrive.
It comes back to that core of educate, advocate, and network. On the educational side, I can tell you stories over the years where I'd have an event regarding workers' comp, and I'd have to drag some of these guys in here who may not have workers' comp insurance, and they're a little bit glib, and we don't believe in workers' comp insurance, and for whatever reason, I'm not going to get into why, but they don't want. And I have an attorney in there that specializes in workers' comp, and when you're a member of the chamber, the education piece is huge. So I bring in a member who's an attorney, and the minute he opens his mouth, the smiles on the faces of those contractors go away because he's like, listen, you can be personally liable and you really ought to have workers' comp insurance. So that's like the education piece. The advocacy pieces, at the end of the day, we work with city government, state government, and the federal government to help get stuff done. A lot of people talk about getting stuff done. We get stuff done. As I tell people all the time, New York is a really tough place to do business. It's
I bet.
expensive. I want to be the one that helps push stuff through the pipe. in a polite way, right? We get stuff done. So when we advocate for you, we go to the mat. When some people ask you to write a letter to Albany, 9 times out of 10, I'll FedEx it versus just scan and email it. If somebody wants something delivered to City Hall, I go knock on the door. I hand a piece of paper to somebody and says, I believe in this member. Do the right thing when we advocate for them, right? And then in the networking piece, I mentioned the old men in tuxedos. Education and I'm sorry, the networking piece is huge because I want to bring people together, right? Networking should not be like a dating game. It ought to be, I've got a guy over here that needs something. Here's somebody that does it. Here's the best example, and it plays well with Sattel. When I first met Paul Howard, I fell in love with the guy and the entire concept, right? And so when I got to the chamber, I learned a lot about not for profits. And in Queens County, New York, we have more not for profits that employ more people than anywhere else. So I went to my then chairman, who's a good friend who hired me, and I said, I want to form a not for profit committee with focus on not for profits. And the man, in a very nice way, said, you realize we're a business organization, right? I got what he was saying, but I said, look at the numbers here, right? Not for profits are it's a name. They have to make a profit. They have to do well. Otherwise, no one will continue giving to them and they'll go under, right? So they employ people, they buy things. So when we come to networking, I put not for profits in a room with people that sell goods and services and let them get together and say, this guy needs insurance. This guy needs HVAC system. This guy needs light bulbs, whatever it is. And I say, do the right thing. It's at the good housekeeping seal of approval. Look out for this company. You're a member, do the right thing. Give them a great price, great service, and I'll endorse and support you to the nth degree. You do the wrong thing, we'll find somebody that can deliver the goods. And that's what makes us tech, right? Getting people business. Those businesses love it. We're looking out for not-for-profits, and it's a great track record of success.
I love that. I love that. And first of all, I love your definition of networking. It's not just, handing over a business card and, having a quick drink. There's something real that comes out of it. But what you're saying about nonprofits in Queens is amazing. And the fact that you're recognizing the business impact that they're having there, I think is really important. I mean, one of the things that we talk about on this podcast a lot is the fact that nonprofits, not-for-profits, they're not, you know, literally they're not making a profit, but that doesn't mean they're not businesses because they
Right.
need to be sharp when it comes to their business operations, when it comes to their mission, when it comes to how they're managing their own growth. So they're just as much of a business as anybody that is making a profit. And I love the way that you're recognizing that and then helping them make connections that help them grow. It's exactly what Satel is all about. Great stuff.
And we also look at it as, I find partners, right? So when I first got here, we were at the big bad chamber, right? Up here in the Boulevard Corporate Center in northern part of Queens. I'm a big believer in partnership. It takes just as much effort to fight with somebody than it does to cooperate. And so I presented ourselves as we support everybody. There's a number of business improvement districts known as BIDs. Of the 76 in New York City, there's 14 in Queens. I know almost each and every one of them by first name. You need something? Let me advocate for you, no matter what it might be. Merchant associations, community boards, we're there to help them, right? And we have relationships with our elected officials, right? Forget about your politics, right? Today we're in a very, very divisive situation in our country, but at the end of the day, green and the dollar trumps all, right? I think if you're in a district and you happen to be, left, center, or right, if your business community fails, your community fails. So I try to infuse in them the understanding of we got to stop the rules and regulations that impede growth for mom and pops. I'll give you an example in New York City. There was a rule requiring certain amount of signage with dollar signs for the price of what you were offering for sale. Fair enough. Instead of being something that would be a teaching moment or a learning moment, it was a fine, $300, $500. And my comment was always to City Hall, you know how many bagels, empanadas, whatever they're selling, they got to make to pay that stupid fine? Why don't you educate them? Nobody's willingly going to hide the price of an empanada or a bagel. Bagel's a bagel, right? Like, you get it? Come on, New York City. Are you filling your coffers or you growing businesses? It's not really hard to figure out, but sometimes the bureaucrats got ahead of themselves. We fought really hard to change that, and now it's more of a consultative, educational process versus just nail them with a fine.
Yeah, I also think that's such a good example too, because it's like forcing a bureaucrat or a government official or a politician or whatever to look at this not just from the point of view of a big company, but from a small little company where, the margin is thin, where something like that kind of fine, that's, as you said, that's a lot of empanadas to
Right.
pay that fine. So it really is, it's educational all around. Absolutely. I
Yes.
think the way that approach you're taking. Um, let's talk a little bit about corporate social responsibility, about companies giving back. The way you're seeing it among the members of the Queen's Chamber. I mean, obviously, bringing people together to do business together is certainly one way you're supporting nonprofits. I'm wondering just a little bit about even other kinds of ways where you have companies maybe making a philanthropic donation to organizations, or even having employees volunteer. One of the reasons that the Satel Institute exists is that because it's become much more of an important focus for companies. So just talk a little bit about what some of the things that maybe you're seeing in Queens among businesses that are giving back.
One of the comments you made when you first opened it up, Tom, was about doing well by doing good. That's a personal mantra of mine, right? Those kind of things. If you're having a turkey drive, offering some turkeys at Thanksgiving time might be nice, but it also comes down to the notion of you give a man or a woman a fish, you feed him for a day, but you teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. I try to imbue that into my members as well as the corporate giving, right? We got a really nice grant from these folks at Hydro Quebec that built a hydro electric line from Quebec across New York State down the Hudson that plugged into Astoria, Queens, right? Very generous people that wanted to make sure that the mitigation of the construction was fine, but they amplified their give by funding us to do green energy jobs. So I partnered with a local college, Queens College, one of my favorites, and with a whole bunch of utility companies, Con Edison, National Grid, New York Power Authority, right? So I pulled kids out of that school to say, let's do internships. I had to build a cohort of students and match them with jobs, right? At the end of the day, if they would have given me X amount of dollars, it would have been nice, general and operating. Even though it was something that was restricted giving, I get it. Would have been nice. I wouldn't have said no. But guess what? We got 150 kids in a 100-person required cohort. So we were 50% more, and we're supposed to place 10 kids. We're going to place those kids probably by the factor of probably when we're all done, 15 or 20 kids. You think about that. That's 15 or 20 people that are going to pay their taxes, that have a sense of appreciation and thanks towards Hydro Quebec and the chamber by extension, right? They know it wasn't my money. We're the facilitator. We're the convener. We brought it all together. Queens College loves us because secondary education is under assault. These kids got jobs, careers, internships, and the kids win, right? So it's one of those things where it's truly a pebble in the pond where you think it was X amount of dollars, but boy, oh boy, that thing explodes and makes it a giant, giant impact on a lot of different lives.
Absolutely, and it's also the kind of thing that's not just an impact right now. It's going to pay an impact literally generations going forward, right? I mean, if you're setting these kids up into careers, lets them have families, lets them support families. I mean, it's just the benefits are literally never ending when you have that kind of impact on something. It's amazing.
And when I give these kids opportunities like that, I give them opportunities. I don't give them jobs. Opportunities, right? Mr. Grech, how can I ever repay you? I always say to every single kid I help, no matter what the age they are, when you're in a position in 5 or 7 or 10 years to help somebody and do the right thing, pay it forward and do it because somebody, the Queen's Chamber, Queen's College, Hydro Quebec, did the right thing for you. Do the right thing for somebody else. It's one of those things about paying it forward. I know you get it because we're both Jesuit trained, but I'm trying to
Ding.
imbue. I'm not trying to imbue the Catholic way of thinking, but just to me, it's so much common sense. You help somebody else, you do a good turn, and in turn, you want them to do a good turn, and so on, and so on, and so on.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of doing good things, I know you got connected to the Satel Institute through Paul Howard, who's our market leader in the New York area. But so tell me how did you guys first get to know each other, and just, what got you excited about becoming part of the Satel Institute?
So there's a gentleman that's a member of the chamber named Tommy DeMisa that knows a lot of different people in the not-for-profit world, and he was after me to meet Paul. And I'm really good at closing the loop, but for some reason or the other, it took a while because of just volume of stuff. But I respect Tommy immensely. He turned me on with Paul. We took it from there and just ran with it, right? Because we're kindred spirits. I love what he's thinking and doing and what he's talking about. He got me invited onto the organization. I'm there. There's a couple of events coming up, I think late summer, early fall, maybe in Baltimore. I'm going to be going down there. But again, I'm trying to spread the wealth and help out other people. But I just think the whole Satel model is a wonderfully different model that seems to be very, very successful. and I want to be associated with it in any way I can.
That's great. And what you said a moment ago about the presence of nonprofits in Queens, I mean, I think it really helps understand why, it can be so beneficial in the area that you're in, but obviously lots of other areas as well, because it's so much of what Satel does is, uniting for profits and nonprofits together because everybody benefits when that happens.
There's no question at all.
Great, awesome. Tom, looking forward to what's next for the Queen's Chamber. Just what are some of the things that you're looking at over the next year or two, 5 years? What's ahead for you guys?
So I embrace elected officials, no matter what their philosophy is, right? And so a couple of years ago, I had an event here, and U.S. Senator Kirsten Gillibrand came, and she asked to present one of her pet projects or one of her truly knowledge bases, which was cyber theft and cyber identity. And she came, and at the end of it, with 75 people in the audience, I said to her, "I'm not sure, Senator, whether your goal was to scare the pants off of us, but you scared the pants off of me." And the story went about the challenges in our world, and I'll leave it at that, different countries that are eating our lunch when it comes to cyber and cyber theft. And so she talked about building some type of a cyber academy. So I went out later on with some thought and my team, and we put together some plans to leverage the 7 colleges and universities in Queens County. Those 7 schools include St. John's, Queens College, a bunch of CUNY schools. There's 100,000 matriculated students in those 7 colleges, and 48% of those kids are foreign born. I want them to grow and prosper and not leave Queens, not leave New York City because I'm a New Yorker, right? I don't want to go to California or Austin or whatever else, right? Although no one's going to California now, which is to our benefit. At the end of the day, we got to get them trained. So I got a grant from the federal government via the wonderful Senator Kirsten Gillibrand to build a cyber academy. Will it be a West Point virtually? Will it be in Annapolis virtually? Maybe. My goal and my plan is to get some really good throughput, get a bunch of really young students that are energized about this, trained locally, as well as some other subject matter experts outside the school, get them jobs, get them to stay. And then once we got some proof of concept, go to the big boys, go to the big tech companies and say, the problems that you face, we're addressing. Let's make it happen here in Queens. Fund me big time beyond the seed capital that the feds gave me, which, by the way, I'm very grateful for. Let's multiply that. Let's make that bigger. Let's make us, dare I say, the epicenter of cyber. And by the way, as you probably know, AI is kind of like merging with cyber in the sense of offense, defense. We want to be at the forefront of that. And to that end, I've also started a Queens Tech Council because, as you probably know, Tom, the wise, nice people at Amazon, after reviewing 283 applications, chose us, but some knuckleheads chased them away, um, which was a tragedy amongst tragedies. But we pivoted, lemonade out of lemons. I now have 6 tech incubators in Queens County. They have 24 tech startups. And in my world, diversity and minority women owned are huge. So of those 24 startups, 78% are minority women owned. I want to grow that. I want to raise 40 or $50 million with the Innovation Foundation to fund those startups. Maybe there's a Google in the mix. Maybe there's a Facebook in the middle of that, right? Fund them and then use maybe a model from like Stanford or MIT and say to them, we help get you funding. We help grow your business. Why don't you give me a point or a percent to fund scholarships here in perpetuity? That's the vision. That's the mission.
Man, other than that, got anything else going on? That's amazing stuff. Amazing stuff, Tom. No, look, I love how you're thinking about sort of, meeting current problems, but also thinking so far ahead that this is stuff that you're laying the groundwork for stuff that's gonna pay off down the road. I mean, it's exactly the right way to think about things. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. As
Really
I tell
amazing.
folks too, like my grandparents came off a boat, right? On my dad's side, they were from the island of Malta, which is a little nothing in the middle of nowhere, but I'm very proud of my heritage. And my mom's side came from Austria off a boat. Today's migrants come off the tarmac, right? They get here by any means. They live in the dream. And as a separate sidebar, I get asked all the time, with all the strife, racial, religious strife in the world, why in general, do people in Queens get along? And my comment is always, 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 they're too busy working to fight. They're too busy living the dream. They're too busy trying to put their kids through school and get to that brass ring and do the right thing. And my job is to not only celebrate that, but help them grow their businesses and succeed.
Love this. It's all about the American dream. It's
That's it,
fantastic.
man. E pluribus unum.
Exactly. Well, Tom, thank you for sharing all this stuff. I feel like I've gotten to know Queens a lot better. Lots of cool stuff, and congratulations to you guys on all the amazing work you're doing there. And look forward to having you even more involved in the Satel Institute as we go forward. So, thanks for your time today.
I can't wait. I'm going to leave you with this, Tom, as a devout Philadelphia guy. Come to Queens. I'm going to buy you a Chitty's cheesesteak. I want you to understand which one's better.
I think these are fighting words where I am in Philadelphia, Tom. We'll have to see. So, all right. Thank you to all of our listeners for listening to this conversation. If you want some more information about corporate social responsibility or the Satel Institute, just go to our website at satelinstitute.org. And we will see you next time. Tom Grech, good to see you. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Take
Great.
care.